Yo, Epic Man, we'll be live in a moment. Alright, chat, I need to make sure that the audio is alright, as a heads up.
Yeah, we switched microphones.
Yeah, we're using
We're using Rainbow Captain's mic.
I can adjust as needed, but since I'm not using my normal setup because of how, there's multiple people in here.
Yeah.
So, just as a heads up. Thanks for the little third screen. 1 second, chat.
I don't know, I wish Twitch still had the hosting feature.
Yeah. I mean, that's technically a rating, yeah.
It sounds alright.
Alright, yeah, we can make this work then. There is noise canceling on that, as I didn't know. No music ahead. Rest. And then we can, I think we can sit down at the same time.
That's exactly what happens to my mic.
Except mine doesn't, mine fortunately doesn't unplug as much, but.
I know.
There we go, there. Alright, just leave it there, I guess. And then there's the chat.
Alright, that's easy. Just look to the right and it's right there. That's a nice setup.
Super big.
I like it.
Alright, let me, let's change the screen. Hi, chat.
Yo, I'm on Rainbow Captain's stream now.
Yo.
Oh, what's poppin', everybody?
Ooh, the camera's up. The camera's up. Not used to
being that far away.
Well, not used to being that angle.
Oh yeah. Hey, there we are.
You can adjust it if you put that.
Stick, dude. I love Mario Party Jamboree.
Have we always do Mario Party 3, right?
Yeah, because Epic Man and Taters are too poor for this game.
I mean, I would.
We can't play it.
Okay.
Alright, sick. I actually think that this might be the best Mario Party ever made.
Wait, what character? I'm sorry, what is this?
Yeah, you just have to like.
Do you
scroll?
Do you need to be linked? No.
No, you gotta do this. I can just.
Go ahead.
Perfect. Oh.
Yeah, if anyone has any issues.
For some reason, you didn't let me select that.
Okay. Hold on. Test, yeah. But now, there you go.
Perfect.
Nice man. You want that?
That's fine. They know who I am.
Okay, okay. And,
I'm Mario. I'm always Mario, even
I'm always Luigi.
I'm surprised this game has like so many random characters like Monty Mole and shit.
the one that's from Mario 2, like the ninja star.
Yeah, like Ninja, like
Ninja. That's
so weird.
I mean, I think Ninja's not a bad character.
No. It's just like I wouldn't expect it. That's all.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, Mario.
I love Mario Party.
Awkward.
No, it's funny because you have Superstars, right? Or no?
I got rid of it because, well, honestly, there was no online. It was I added online at the end, and I got it when the game came out.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I had a lot of fun with that game, but then like this came out, and it's like, well, then who the hell is gonna go back and play?
I mean, they added online, but it's like not the full game.
Yeah,
it's
like
Party Rules.
I've never played Pro Rules.
I played Pro Rules. Pretty much, it's set turns.
Okay.
And you know what the bonus stars are.
Oh, really?
So when I played online, I shared it a couple times.
Yeah.
You get to know, like, it's like you play for this, and you can pick what items and what stuff. Like they're not random.
Yeah.
It's good strategy. Oh, that's the rules. I don't have all of them unlocked either yet.
Yeah, I don't have Mario's Rainbow Castle unlocked.
I don't know how you unlock them. You don't buy them right now.
Yeah, you just have to keep playing boards. That's it.
Okay.
Gotta keep playing through boards.
Do we want to keep this?
Yeah.
I don't know how many turns we want, but we're good. that?
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't know how long the game has.
What's up, Mario Bros fan?
What's up, SMB fan?
What's going on, dude?
How long did it matter? Do we just want to do 10 turns, or do we want to do?
Yeah,
I think 10's the minimum.
Yeah, if I gotta leave early, we gotta leave early. We'll just play until until.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm an SMB fan. We just got done with the podcast. Just got here.
Yeah.
The Milky Finish. You can introduce yourself. Please.
My name is Zach Lawley of the Milky Finishers, live streamer extraordinaire, and you just missed an amazing podcast. We went an hour and a half talking about the Wii.
Yeah.
All different kinds of stuff. Really good discussion. I'm not gonna spoil it here. You can go check it out. It'll be up on YouTube tomorrow though.
On his channel, yeah.
Because
And all good SMB fans.
yeah, I'm staying with a friend tonight that lives about like 40 minutes away.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I thought you were gonna drive back, honestly.
Nah, not in the dark.
Yeah.
Not that's what
You're
I'm saying.
good.
But then I'm gonna be leaving.
Yeah. That was a great time on your stream.
Sorry, no Wario. We got Rosalina and Boo, two floating people.
Floaty.
The floaties. What?
But yeah, no, yeah, we're doing that. I'll probably edit my perspective.
Do it, yeah.
Or do a vlog or something.
Yeah, I'll do one final scene before I leave of the vlog, and then I'll edit it when I get home
I
tomorrow.
usually don't do like recorded videos on my stream or highlights.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
just the VODs. I really need to find a way to edit, like get actual more edited stuff on there.
Yeah, like I said, I've got Toxic working on VOD edit, so
Yeah.
let's see.
I mean, I think I've told you about Kappa's Corner or like the pilot.
Yes. In that like big stream that you did, where you were talking about all like the different highlights and stuff.
Yeah. So that's been on the back burner. So that's
Yeah.
like the more my edited stuff that
Here we go.
For recorded stuff.
Yeah.
So the issue is I've been focusing on other stuff.
Same. It's so hard for me to video edit my own videos because like I already lived it. I don't want to watch it back. So the best thing I could do is just find somebody and hire them to edit my videos.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why on my main channel I upload like 2 times a
Yeah.
year. Like I never upload.
That's why my current channel is just Rainbow Kappa, like with VODs. And then whenever I do a project, I just upload the trailer.
Yeah.
But I made a new channel. And I'm probably gonna.
You didn't share it yet, did you?
No, it's just up there.
Gotcha.
The dead blank channel kind of placeholder.
Yeah, I remember watching the stream where you talked about that.
It's like it's written. It's just I'm not happy with it yet.
I get it. My Zelda documentary took me like 3 months and I wasn't happy.
I was
with
rewatching that.
it. Really? Yeah. That's funny. I love Western Land.
Western Land's a classic.
Were you playing that one time where we played Western Land on original Mario Party 2?
We did.
And
that
everybody,
one guy.
yeah, and everybody kept doing the Hoot Nanny.
Yeah,
That was you. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were there.
Yeah. And then wasn't there a time we played? Was it Western Land when that one guy that never came back?
That was the Eternal Star method.
I was there.
We did 50 turns, which was like hell.
I don't know why we did it.
All 3 of us on this one space. Yeah, we did 50 turns of Western Land, which was a nightmare.
All good. Thank you for lurking rep.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
But yeah, like wow.
I like your setup because you got the chat on the screen like that.
I usually sit in the front, but like I can just.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. My setup is so. What the hell is this? Oh no.
I don't know.
Oh no. Okay. This is gonna be
Literally
good.
more emotion.
It's fun.
So there's that one Mario Party 3 minigame
Which one?
where it was like swimming.
3,
Okay.
No, this was
Two.
Beach Party actually.
1.
I still play that. Which one?
There's like a lot of overlap, but there's a swimming game, but instead of motion controls, you press buttons.
Oh, okay. Ugh,
Wait.
I don't know what to do with it. How do I?
Same thing, but it's like sand.
Hello, Mario.
Pretty
What's
much
that?
like this, but instead of going on to the sand, it was just the water and you go back and forth for a time.
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
But there's that, and then there's a lot of other games that are just from Mario Party. Because they're from the modern. This game is made by the same people that made Beach Party.
Yes, which I love.
But they use the horse one.
This, yeah, not that one.
No, but the horse one's in Beach Party.
Yeah, the rocking one with the
Yeah.
carrots. Yeah.
Yeah, that. But holy crap.
That reminded this particular one reminded me of something from like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Oh, what the looks like a track.
Yeah, you have to do this thing. You have to like shake the Wii remote and then jump. Shake the Wii remote, jump. I think I heard a rumor that those games are like they're not making
I think
any cancel. Yeah.
The Olympics are sports. Is that
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, they cut the funding for the video games for something. Yeah, so there's not.
And I don't really get how they're doing that. It feels like really.
I haven't watched the Olympics in years, so my only experience with the Olympics was Mario and Sonic.
I only know about Vancouver because 2010.
Yeah. I love that. That's my favorite one.
Me when I even say about Vancouver, the Olympics.
Half of my viewers live in Vancouver. Needing a ride?
Nope. Western Land is so good.
Mm-hmm. Oh no. It's funny because some of the items in this game do the same things as items in Mario Party 3, but they're like named different things. Like the chop call moves a star, but in Mario Party 3 it's like the blue genie lamp.
I mean, it's like localization.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think yeah.
I think the worst Mario Party is Mario Party.
9 or 10.
Yeah, I'd say 10.
And I think it's worse.
Really? Yeah. I think I agree because
9 is different, but
yeah, it was the first time, and like
10 was really forced. On
yeah,
people.
because it's like and it's like okay, we have the car, and then now we have the car again. The only thing cool that 10 had was the Bowser mode.
Yep.
Like with the one person with the gamepad.
And you needed like an amiibo for that. Like you needed like an amiibo for anything.
Yes.
Like amiibo festival.
Luckily for me, I have like so many amiibo.
I only have 3, but really, if you the I still having.
Which ones?
Bowser, Mario, and Luigi.
Oh shit, those are the 3 best ones.
Yeah, like, if you wanted any of those, are the 3 you could get.
I have all of those, and then like there was a time where I was addicted to getting amiibo because I wanted all the Smash Bros. Ones, but then I was like, that's gonna cost like $1,000, and I don't want to spend all
So
that.
the issue with amiibo is I didn't really care. But because I used to have a base of Disney Infinity.
That makes sense. So you already got burned.
Yeah.
Amiibo was my first time into that.
And it's only because they force you to do it, right? There's it's not because you want to. It's just because you have to get these to play the game.
The coolest game that used amiibo was Mario Maker 1. Because they have all the cool costumes.
I'm surprised they didn't bring that back.
I know! Mario Maker 2, it's like you have amiibo, and they work on the Switch. Why can't you just give us the
They
costumes?
didn't give you anything for that, did they?
Bonus minigame.
No, 2, you don't get nothing.
Yeah,
In Mario Maker 1, you got to play as all the characters, and they supported like all the amiibo.
Because even like most games even still do that on Switch. It's not much.
Yeah,
But they still did something.
literally. Oh, I love this one.
I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna get this Switch OLED because I wanted the white Joy-Cons, but then there was the Zelda one. It's like, well, I have to get this, so I'm not gonna get 2 Switches. So I went with the Zelda one.
yeah, I had the official one, and then I modded it.
Hell yeah.
The Rose was for years.
Damn.
And then I got the New Horizons one.
What was the Switch that fell in the river?
That was the New Horizons.
Okay.
I don't know how that happened. Like it's kind of just like I was in Florida. I was in Florida. This was like the last trip.
Yeah.
And then I was walking on the pier, or like a pier, or like somewhere in this. And then I just casually like dropped it. Like I didn't realize I dropped it.
Damn.
Like, oh damn! Oh shit! I dropped it into the water.
I would cry.
Like I didn't know how. Like,
Did you lose your data? Or was it back up the
the
cloud?
issue is Animal Crossing. I had data on there.
You didn't have
That was like when I was in my phase. That's I didn't reset, but
New
how
turn.
they do it is it's linked to the console, not
Yep.
to the game.
When I got my OLED, it was a pain.
And the only way you can transfer it
Jamboree.
is by having a game system.
Yeah.
So you kind of
Oh yeah, because didn't they like kind of like ban your account because you had the my Switch?
it was only the console, original console.
Oh shit. Okay.
So it wasn't banned. It didn't get banned on that one. I just lost the console that I couldn't transfer.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So and then I got the OLED. I think it came out like it was a couple months after the OLED. The OLED only really came out with Metro Prime.
Yeah, because I remember when they were gonna do the Switch OLED, like before it came out, everybody thought that was gonna be the Switch Pro,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no.
I think that's what I'm thinking it was. It was going to.
Yeah, but then it's like, it's literally just like a better screen.
And no Ethernet port.
Yeah. No, I never used that, but still.
The Ethernet port is interesting. So
Showdown
the way you would
mini
do it before was literally the same LAN adapter from the Wii.
Oh wow, that's
So-
like ancient.
That's what I'm saying. You could for the USB, like the USB LAN adapter Ethernet. You can use the one from third party or like the one that's from the Wii era
Okay.
on the Wii U and Switch.
Damn.
Because they're pretty much just like an Ethernet.
Yeah. Makes it a lot more simple, I guess.
But like, it's shocking that they never did it until now.
Yeah.
It's like the PlayStation had it, the Xbox had it, but nothing else had it.
Yeah. I wonder if when the Switch 2 comes out, there's gonna be like different color options, or if it's just gonna be like the black Joy-Cons.
I would be interested that, but the way they, the one that they advertised, which they did not, be too sure about, was white, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
Black.
I thought it was white.
I think they're going to be in at least the normal colors.
Okay.
White and black, and then red. Like you would think, right? Red, blue.
Okay.
I don't know. Whoever the launch one was. The launch Switch color.
Yeah, it was the red and blue. But yeah, we won't know till April. But that's actually coming up a lot sooner than I thought. I remember when they first announced it, they're like, it's so far away.
Next month of March. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start.
Oh shit. Okay.
Round 1.
Alright, I'm trying to lock in. Oh shit, I hit the button too early. I think I did.
That'll do.
Yep.
Oh no.
Son of a bitch.
Round 2.
Okay.
Wait,
Ta-ta.
Yep. Like,
Pretty good. That's good, yeah.
I've never played this mini game. The Wario one.
I never played this one
Round
Joy
3.
Con. I don't play sideways.
I haven't done this since like I went to like one of my friends' house to play Mario Kart. Like, what's the question?
What's the different one?
Am I tweaking? I don't know. Oh, I could not
It's been
see.
so fast.
I could not see what was
Round
happening.
4.
I'm doing really bad.
Farewell.
Did I get it wrong? I don't know.
I counted, but I might have counted wrong. No, I counted wrong.
I was nervous.
I would count like.
It doesn't matter. I have like no points. You got. Oh, there's still quite a bit more rounds.
Yeah, there's like.
Ta-ta.
Okay. Oh, the hell were the windows thinking?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing Saturday, but we might do more Mario Party on Saturday.
I know we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, you said that already. You said only if Epic Man also does it.
No, I was joking with those probably. I mean, I'm unlikely down.
That's funny.
Unlikely down. It's just.
Oh shit, I didn't know what the question was.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. I think you have to see how far he goes. If he's.
I didn't.
Before he how far.
Oh.
I didn't realize we were just talking.
I didn't realize. Okay,
Round
fine.
7.
I can
I
make
think
it.
I'm done for Saturday if things work out right.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of just joked because
Yeah.
I think
I don't even know something because like I gotta get my tooth pulled on Friday, so it still hurts
I
Saturday. I'm not gonna
have to
say.
go back Friday myself to get my tooth
Yeah, same with me, dude. I'm in the same boat
because
as
I
you.
couldn't bring it out last Thursday.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Hopefully they don't have that.
What they do is they have to pull it out because it's pretty much dead.
Same.
But-
Well, yeah, mine's getting to that
Yeah,
point.
I think the deal is it's how they need to if they need to put me under or
Round 9.
Yeah.
numb it more.
They're numbing me.
In terms of, but yeah, likely Saturday. I don't know if Epic Man's here or if he wants to join us.
He's eating pizza
Final
pockets.
round.
Probably. But yeah, we're down. I'm down if you're down. But yeah, no, the podcast is really good. I got
Yeah, that was really cool. It went longer than the one I did with Andrew. I usually try to go for 1 hour, but
How did you? So after Andrews,
okay.
did you think it worked? Like, did you think it was a good? Did you and Andrew do a good podcast?
Yeah, people seem
From
to like it.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, like him and I talked for a little bit, and I was glad that he did that.
I'm glad. I just I'm wondering because like I know you. I'm not one of those two people you
Oh
mentioned.
boy.
I'm not one of those two people
Wait, what two people?
that you said on Andrews on the first podcast that you had to think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying.
No, you were not. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's what I'm
that was.
So I'm wondering
More.
from the first podcast to now, did you think everything went smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong. I could have not found your house. I could have not. I could have like gotten
Back my
lost.
car
Yeah,
crash.
we could have had tech problems.
I could have been bad. I could have done something bad. I could have committed murder.
Literally.
Uh,
So, no, yeah, this was great. I had a really great time doing all this.
If you had one point of criticism to the podcast, like for me or for you, just in general, here, what would you say? Like, what is one thing you could improve on?
I don't know. I think I got.
Like, I know it's not perfect, but I'm just kind of I'm curious in your thoughts because I love the format,
Yeah, me too.
but
The only criticism I have, and I noticed this with the episode with Andrew too, but I don't know if I'd ever want to change it, but it's still a criticism, is a lot of podcasts are like very structured,
Yeah.
where like when I talk with you or Andrew or any guests, there's always like a lot of side stories. We get sidetracked. Like when we talk about the Wii and then we'll talk about the Switch and then the story.
and then
Epic
the
Man
game,
233C just
that's
gifted
kinda
1
fun.
subscriptions to the
Epic Man,
community.
it's so
What the frick are you doing,
Thanks
Epic
for
Man
the- for the
233C?
Yeah, Alex Tito says, what's the Mario Party game where you have a partner with Boo and Womp? That's Mario Party 3.
Yeah.
That's the battle mode.
Yeah.
Which I want to do 1v1 with Epic Man.
Technically, you can do allies. There's allies in here, but
Yeah, no, I know what he's talking about though, because there's the battle mode where like they follow you and then they attack. Like an RPG.
I can't remember. Is that Far Cry 3?
It is. I mean, yeah, I was just playing it the other day. And you get like Womp, Piranha Plant, Chain Chomp.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's a separate mode. It's not in the main
Like in the
board.
game island.
No, it's just called Battle Map. There's minigame mode, Battle Royale, and the 1v1
All good
mode.
ethics, man.
Yeah, I love Mario Party. That's a really... Is that your emo or emo cat? Yeah, the fucking chair, okay.
I didn't have it. I don't know how
It became a meme until they added it to New Horizons.
No, I think the way I see it is he was default dancing.
Oh.
The Ferrari chair.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I just thought, that's funny.
I know, I need to get a new emote. I've been working on so many things.
I,
My priority was just like planning this whole trip
Yeah,
to get here. I was like, I'm gonna worry about everything else after this. I was like, there's too much stuff going on. Like, I didn't know because, like, just a couple days ago, this whole area, like, where you live and where I live, like, all this whole area of the country got a lot of snow.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, am I even gonna be able to go? Is there gonna be a lot?
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
It's cold, fortunately, but it was worse.
Yeah. I can handle the cold. I just can't handle if it's like snow and blizzard.
Yeah.
Especially because like I don't think the doxes you, but like you kind of live in an open area,
Yeah.
so it's like
I mean,
No.
people know roughly where I am because of the streams.
how?
Dude, I
Dude,
stream on Fridays.
still they would have to like
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like,
you know how many people can't
people
even
can see that.
find the U.S. on the map.
Where's my fan map? Point at literally Korea.
Yeah, literally. It's like
No, my point is, they know what they mean by opening.
yeah. Before
Other than
Red started watching my streams, I don't think I didn't even know where Brazil was on the
I'm
globe.
gonna throw you to Brazil now.
I would got Chile and Brazil confused. I don't know.
I mean, I took a geography class in high school.
Yeah, I always sucked at geography.
But
that was never my.
I was always better at history and
Hey, I
geography
love
over
English
math.
and history and
I
psychology.
hate math.
Math is the worst.
Oh, don't tell me about
Math is garbage.
Like this is a weird take, but I personally think anything after history and math.
Is not necessary. I agree.
Well, a lot of people think it's not. It's not. But like, it's like
Just you and me, 1v1.
But the issue is like I think algebra and all that is important,
Oh yeah.
especially for me because I work on game dev stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Dreams.
I look at code and
Well, I'm really passionate about that.
I'm so bad at math and like numbers. Like it's so frustrating for me to even mod games,
New turn.
and that's easy for a lot of people.
Like, I'm really technical stuff, right? But
Yeah.
the issue with math in general is I think you can understand that kind of stuff without taking a whole year of classes.
Yeah.
So how my school did it was you do algebra 1 and then algebra 2.
Mm.
So you do, it wasn't like, and then calculus at the end.
Calculus is the worst class.
Calculus wasn't required.
See, for me it was.
The only class that was required.
Psychology.
The only class that was, the only way you could do that class until ironically the year I graduated was advanced AP calculus.
Really?
Which was the year COVID happened.
Oh.
So they were gonna do advanced normal calculus, right? But the issue is COVID happened,
Damn.
so they didn't actually finish it either.
Yeah, wait, so how did that work out for you? Were you a senior that year?
2020, yeah, back to 2020.
So you ended high school to do it online?
Well, the deal was it was up until March, and then March happened and we were finishing. So this is how I see it. No one actually did the work because no one knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So how it was is if you were passing before, you passed. They didn't count. They dropped the grades.
Wow.
And I passed because I did pretty well academically.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if I actually did well or if they
You just like passed. Yeah, that was a weird time.
but I don't know. Education.
Yeah, right.
Tell me about it.
Wario, I'm like, gonna give me 20 cents, bro.
Yeah, but I'm very passionate about game dev, streaming, all that.
Jadwagon. Yeah, I could never. I like playing games and talking about them. I can do that all day. I can't make any games. I remember trying to. I didn't do it on stream, but I tried to make a game in Dreams, and I was like, dude, I can't do it. I was like, my head literally hurt.
It's like you with tournaments and stuff, making videos and stuff.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do videos and
Yeah, it's like that for me with dreams and game dev.
that's cool though. I like it.
I think I'm overthinking a lot
Oh, for sure.
because
There's so much that goes into
I
it.
always play games thinking sometimes, how did I do it? Not, is it fun?
And that's funny because when I see movies, I think about how they do that, like how did they film that or how did they edit that.
That's what we do, Eric.
Yeah, when you do something, then you start to see other people do it. And you think
Overanalyze it, yeah.
Yeah. Like I can always tell, like I was like, oh, they use green screen effect for that.
And it overlaps with game dev because there's the animation and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been getting back into game dev because after
Game.
for those here do excellent project game CNR 3 she's under 3 and stuff.
Did you ever make anything in like RPG Maker or anything?
Not formally. I did Unity. I know more Unity than
RPG Maker. I just know like a lot of people like. I think wasn't Undertale made in like a modified version of RPG
no
Maker?
Game Maker.
Game Maker.
Game Maker
That's what it
Studio, which is similar, I feel like in some ways.
Oh gosh, this is like the Mario Party 2 minigame, but like reversed.
Wait, isn't that what was the one in Mario Party 2? The archery one?
Yeah, except the archer's up here, and then you have the cardboard cutouts.
It's like, oh, but you're the cardboard.
Yes, yeah. It's like reversed. Are any of the stars in Paper Mario games and Mario Party games? Come on now, did you know
They're
that?
not the same stars.
Well, no, he's talking about
Go.
in Mario Party 5. All of the stars are from Mario Party or Paper Mario.
I don't know Mario Party.
Oh, see, I love Mario Party 5.
I never. The GameCube Mario Party games, I just never really got the chance to play.
That's why I hope that they put them on NSO.
Yeah,
that would be. We would have so much fun.
Like I love the Mario, like the GameCube games. I don't.
Yeah.
I have
Because 4, 5, 6, and 7 are amazing. We would have so much fun streaming those together. In Mario Party 5, all of the stars from Paper Mario are in the game, which is really cool.
Yeah. My most played Mario parties are DS. Because DS is like,
Is that the one with like the storm or is that Advance? Okay.
I never played Advance.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't know. I barely knew that game existed for like a long time because
New
it's like
turn.
Game Boy Advance games are weird.
They are, but they're really cool. I didn't grow up with a lot of Game Boy Advance games. I didn't start playing handheld till DS. So that's why anytime they add Game Boy Advance to NSO, I love it.
One of my first portable consoles was a Game Boy Color though.
Yeah, I had a lime green Game Boy Color.
That's how that's why I love Mario Golf.
Yeah,
Because Mario Golf in the RPG, in like the Mario Golf and all that are RPG.
yeah,
They're not just
you play like anime characters and stuff.
they're
Weird.
not about golfing necessarily. They're about
Yeah.
their story, which is insane.
It is.
And then the console ones are just golf.
That one's on NSO. I want to play it.
I love that.
And I played it when I was a kid. I don't remember anything other than it's like weird.
Well, they do it. So spoilers for anyone that went to this.
Yeah, for Mario Golf.
The original golf. Yeah.
Game Boy.
Pretty much you play as like an amateur golfer, and everyone wants to beat Mario at golf.
Yeah, he's like the king.
So you build up the golf, and then the whole Mario part is once you complete the main 4 courses, then you get invited by Mario himself. It's this whole big thing. Because Mario's in this cloud mushroom kingdom. He's in another world,
Yeah.
and if you beat him, no one. The ending is so sad, stupid. Because when you do beat Mario, the people that like the golf managers
Yeah.
tell you can't tell anyone about. This is how the game. Once the game, it's like a loop. You can still play the
Yeah.
game, but you can't do anything because like congratulations, no one can tell.
Yeah.
You can't tell everyone you just the god of this game.
Yeah, literally.
But, yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Sure. What do you got for me? This is nothing really cool. I guess this.
I don't think there's anything recently that they were streaming that's interesting.
Wait, who was streaming?
You.
Did I stream?
Yeah. Like I know you did Super Saiyan 60, right? It's
Yeah,
not like Rob.
I would not call that interesting. Well, I guess in a way.
I mean, the fact that it had a weather cycle, like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that was just more stolen assets. Like I don't think anyone. I don't see that guy meaning it.
Yeah, it was so dark I couldn't even see.
The issues I know what you're using our SM64 co-op.
Yeah.
Those are the issues that the guy.
We probably just took a bunch of
That's
stolen
what
assets.
he didn't
Yeah,
make a
because
single ROM.
Didn't
hack.
you say that the Breaking Bad cutscene was like
Yeah,
from a different game? Yeah.
Like literally, I know Mario alone can do it.
No, it's probably just a bunch of stolen assets.
Probably it was like
Going for this to
probably like a friend group.
a BPS file. I just googled like
I was
Super
thinking.
Saiyan 64 and there's a download link, so like,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, but the Sonic Brain War, I'm right. Dude, that's like right out your alley.
Every joke he makes is so
It seems
perfect.
like you made it, but like
I wish I could.
Yeah,
I'd be making so much money. Those videos get millions and millions of
it's
views.
your comedy,
It really is.
but it's Sonic
It's so funny.
and Dreamcast.
Yeah. Alright.
Start.
Let's try to match these charts. Nope. Oh, we're neck and neck. No! We were like a little bit behind. Well, I choked.
Dude.
Finish.
What? Somehow, right at the very end. Oh my gosh, I did not think I was gonna win this. That was crazy. Luigi's animation is so extra. They made him so sad.
So depressed.
Did you ever play Luigi's Mansion 3?
Yeah. Yeah.
I never got to play it still. I want to.
Good.
Okay.
For a Switch.
Okay.
It's not 1 or 2.
Only 5
Instead
turns
of
left.
so 1 has a single mansion.
I love, yeah.
One
Luigi's
does.
Mansion 1.
1 is the best way to play it.
I love Luigi Mansion. I've played it so many times on the GameCube, and then I played it again on the 3DS.
The 3DS.
I love the 3DS one.
The 3DS is like what they wanted it to.
Yeah.
Because they wanted 3D and all that, but
Yeah, that's crazy thinking Nintendo was trying to do 3D all the way back then.
and then Dark Moon. I played Dark Moon. I'm not personally into Dark Moon.
Yeah, I didn't like it. That's why I didn't buy it on Switch. I was like, I'm not buying it again. I already bought it on 3DS. I played
Dark Moon though isn't bad.
I kind of don't like it because
I think they could have just one mansion. They could have made it one big mansion.
I don't like the mini mansions.
Yeah.
Because none of them are as good as the one from the first game.
That's what I'm saying. So they made like one mansion, but like made some way to make it less obvious. Like maybe like this mansion had multiple floors.
Yeah, Alex Pizza says Dark Moon looks good. Your graphics look
Oh,
really
yeah.
good.
Even on the
It's-
3DS.
Yeah, I just don't like the mansions, but Luigi Mansion 3 looks cool because it's like all one hotel in it. Like you're
Yeah.
in a big hotel.
One is like one scene. That's why I wanted to.
Yeah.
One seamless.
Yeah, man.
And I get completely why Dark Moon is the way it is because it's 3DS.
Yeah, they want to make a portable one. That makes sense.
And they can't really do as much on 3DS.
Yeah.
But 3 isn't Dark Moon or 1 because it's a different story.
For sure.
It's cool, and it looks really cool for a Switch game
Oh yeah.
because it's Nintendo.
Yeah.
You know, made it.
All of Nintendo's like main games look so good.
Looks like the Unreal Engine.
Yeah, right.
But it's not. It's not.
That's crazy.
But
Then you'll play third-party games and they run so bad on the Switch. I didn't realize it until because I've been playing nothing but like Nintendo games. I've been playing like this game. I think the graphics on this game are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks good.
I
Like
think
Mario
it looks
Odyssey.
like 4K renders or something.
Yeah, like Tears of the Kingdom. I think all those games look good. But then I started playing, or I was gonna play Danganronpa on the Switch, and I was like, it runs so bad.
I mean, I
like,
feel like a 30 game is a minute.
yeah, you would think it's only like sprites and
I mean,
stuff.
it's based on the PSP game.
Yeah, I know, but it still runs so bad. But like, I luckily I've got it on PlayStation, so I'm gonna play it on PlayStation.
I
on
thought you
Thursday.
started it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I only played the first one fully. I know I watched the second one from your stream. And then I eventually did play the second one.
When you played Persona 5, did you play on Switch or?
And I always play. I played on Steam actually.
Oh.
I don't play much.
So,
I play.
You're playing Reload on Steam?
Yeah.
Oh.
I played on Steam. I own them. I own 3.
Oh yeah, because you told me about the Sonic mod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only I mainly came on Steam.
That makes sense.
I had Persona 4. I think on Persona 5 on PlayStation 4. So I just didn't. I played it.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm gonna have Boo rob himself.
Because food is zero.
They should have been linked. If Boo was a playable character, they should have made this guy King Boo.
I think they have dialogue that's unique.
Or like Boo.
If
If you go to its base, that makes
I
sense.
have 17 points that boo over there. Kind of weird. But
Oh,
that
that makes sense.
flavor text.
That's funny. I like that. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nintendo's
But,
the best at that stuff.
Yeah. No. For like, I'm working on like the project I'm working on, right?
Okay.
But after I worked on the project, I'm slowly working on like prototyping or making my own game
Ooh, that'll
Like-
be exciting.
instead of the, because that's kind of what I've been wanting for the last year.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You got a
Because
star.
during the thing. But the idea is, so loosely what I'm thinking is like Persona 5 RPG wise,
Ooh.
where it's like play day by day.
Yeah.
But the idea is, it's like Undertale or Earthbound in terms of certain things, like a right.
Like characters
Yeah,
and
not
dialogue.
not necessarily a quirky RPG like inspired, like you know that.
Yeah.
But it's like the writing, it's like dark, but it's masked by the comedy.
Yeah. Like this.
It's like Danganronpa in terms of like the world's like to us fucked up,
Yes.
but to them it's fun.
It's goofy. Yeah, that's why I feel like people get the wrong idea about Danganronpa. Because I know like Wendy and a couple people in my Discord be like, "Oh, I could never play it because it's too like serious. There's too much death."
Mini
I'm like,
game.
it's in a way that's so goofy. It's not even like realistic.
But it isn't.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, like they execute people like goofy, like
Well,
they
they
shoot them into the face.
It's not
and
that.
shit.
It's not dark because they know.
Yeah.
Because it's because we know.
Exactly. Like, yes, it's a game where people die, but it's like so over the top that it's not like depressed. I never like got depressed playing the game.
So so yeah, obviously this is like I'm just messing around with the idea. The idea is it's gonna be like an RPG, like Persona 5, where you go day by day.
Not 5, no, I've played 3 and 4.
So you know Persona in general, where you go day by
Of
day.
course, yeah, yeah.
The formula.
Calendar.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a calendar
Social
thing where you
media.
have a certain amount of time, but and then each month you do something,
That's cool.
and then at the end of the month you have to do like a con.
Yeah, that's the best thing about Persona in my
But
opinion.
the combat are turn based,
Yes.
but they're puzzles.
Ooh.
So pretty much you don't necessarily fight like Undertale, like you know how like.
Yeah, have like the rhythm.
But the idea is you have to sort of force the button.
Okay.
You have to force the enemy like out of the arena.
Okay.
So
That's kinda cool.
like tic-tac-toe,
Yeah.
like you actually have to beat them individual. Is what I'm saying.
That'll be fun.
I'm not like there's obviously that's ideas, but the idea I have is pretty much like there's the normal buttons by item, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like a puzzle RPG kind of in some ways.
Only 4
Yeah.
turns left.
Like yeah, like the tic-tac-toe idea, I kind of like it. I can see that being like very addicting.
Pretty much just like they're just you have to outsmart or like figure out why they're fighting in the first place.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a really good idea.
kind of. Looking into it right now.
Do you know who Brodude is?
Yeah.
He makes like Mario 64
Yeah.
pack and stuff. Yeah, he's making an actual game, and it's actually gonna be on Switch, which is crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy to see like a Mario 64 modder actually making a real
I know
video
there's
game.
people that make games based on, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's called like Caro Quest. Yeah, he did
I
a
might-
Kickstarter.
I might-
Yeah, he did a Kickstarter for it.
That's good for him.
Yeah, right. It's cool to see like that just shows a little bit like because Andrew would always make fun of people that made like fan games or mods.
Yeah.
But like, dude, I was like, you don't understand. Like, these people are learning skills that can lead to them making a real game.
The deal is they don't think they're going to,
Yeah.
but they always could.
Yeah. Toby Fox started by making Earthbound mods. you know?
And I know well about a Halloween
That'll do.
So, yeah.
hack. Yeah, I've been looking at Mother 3 again. I never played Mother 3.
I still never play it because I keep hoping that maybe one day.
Well, I mean, you got the Switch. I have it on my Wii U.
I only played original Earthbound just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I played Earthbound, I think, at one point. I don't remember much.
It's fun. There's parts of it that are really difficult, but I really like
But
it.
I was looking at Earthbound and Mother because of the
Yeah.
research.
It's considered some of the best writing in games. Like a lot of people take inspiration from it, so that's a good idea to be playing for it.
Like, obviously, I don't want to get the treatment of, like, you know, how they games. Like, Andrew Dice. There's a lot of games that really help.
Yeah.
I really like that want to be Andrew Dice. I don't want to be
Yeah, of course not.
I'm kind of using it as, like the comparison to, like, Mother 3 or Earthbound. Like, you're finding this kind of dark topic,
Yeah.
but you won't know it. But
Yeah, exactly.
it's just kids. With magic powers.
Literally.
Or, like, Danganronpa. It's more like Danganronpa.
I love it.
It's like where...
Yeah.
Or, like, normal life. But with that kind of twist.
Yeah. No, that's exciting stuff.
Minigame.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It can be if you have like a lot of ambitions. But anything can be a lot of work. Streaming can be a lot of work.
I mean,
Video editing can be like,
this is like something I'm doing for passion, not really for money right now.
yeah.
And I'm already working on like, you know, the
Oh,
project.
snowball fight. Oh, it's everybody versus me and the monkeys. Oh, dude, I'm gonna
The
die.
monkeys are it.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared. The one player never does good. We got 3 people. The monkeys don't do good.
Start.
Run! I can go outside and play this in real life. Oh! I almost got you with the snowballs canceling each other out. Run! No, Mario, run! Oh, the monkey got you!
Finish.
Nah, the monkeys.
The monkeys actually won. I was talking smack about it.
Monkey, monkey do.
Literally. I like how you can see like the cold from their breath. Cool detail.
Look, there's a lot like that steak.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's really nice details in this. The game is really good. It looks like a 4K game.
I love it, man. Mario looks like all the characters look
3
so
turns
good.
left.
Like we're just this is Snitty, like the first time you 4K. It looks like 4K.
Yes.
It looks really good.
Well, you have a nice monitor too, so
Definitely this is like 1440.
yeah. If you have a bad monitor, it doesn't matter how good the game looks. It's not gonna help.
Playing this on a PSP now.
Yeah, I used to have the shitty 720p TV that I streamed off of and played so much, and then when I finally got my 4K TV, I was like, holy smokes.
What's your favorite motto of the video?
I'm guessing he's asking because in the N64 days, they didn't have the big tongues, and now they do.
I mean, like King Boo, Boo, Arrow.
I think King Boo from Luigi's Mansion, because it's weird because these games, like Mario Kart will have King Boo, but it'll just be Boo with a crown. But the one in Luigi's Mansion, like, have like the purple eyes,
Yeah.
it's got the purple gem.
Is like the 70s.
That's the coolest one. The one from Mario Sunshine is the worst. I hate that.
Mario Sunshine.
I hate the Mario Sunshine King Boo.
I just think Mario Sunshine isn't normal Mario.
Well, it's because they're not in the Mushroom Kingdom, they're on Isle Delfino, so it's like,
Paper Mario Boo's are good.
I love Paper Mario Boo.
That's what it's-
Yeah, that's a good one, that's a good one. Damn, we lost 35 coins.
The issue with Mario Sunshine is, you know, it's different.
And listen,
It's not bad.
I like the game, I really do. It's just not my favorite Mario. Because there's a lot of silly things that make me frustrated. But I'm still glad it exists. I love Shadow Mario, I love the music, I love...
For sure.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
I didn't realize we close.
You are very...
I mean, you've been talking for like maybe an hour.
I'm locked in, I've got 100 coins and a star. I'm locked in.
Wait, am I not clicking right, buddy?
It's because it auto defaults to not wanting to look at the product, which I don't know why.
Oh, you have to buy something. I didn't realize that.
Last 3 turns, we got this.
I don't even have a start. You have a start.
I do.
And then Rosaline does.
I don't even know where she got her. That one I blacked out. I don't know where she got hers.
Alright.
I was paying attention to mine. Now everybody besides whoever saw.
Get through.
You got a star.
I can't believe that when Switch 2 comes out, there's actually gonna be a brand new. Wow, it's like
Yeah.
right.
Well, there's a game where like someone got like 3 stars because of that.
And you have enough coins for it. That's insane. Holy shit.
Okay, I guess why we're trying to switch to. What do you think? What is your most logical like prediction? What do you think with the Switch 2 will have that we don't have?
This is like in terms of a feature.
Yeah.
I think
There'll be no compatibility.
I think that you're going to be able to cast the game to your TV without a dock. I think you can still use the dock, but I think that casting your game to the TV will make it essentially work like a Wii U.
That's
That's what I think. So I think the bottom screen will be handheld, and you'll have the gameplay on top.
that's why what I was saying before. Really, it would be really cool, but I didn't expect it.
I only expect it because there's that mysterious C
Yeah.
button, and I think that stands for connect.
I mean, it
We'll
could
see.
be capture.
That is true. That is true.
It could just be the image.
Yeah, but they already have the screenshot and video capture button on the other side. So
the wait. Oh, I don't have it.
this moment trying to steal my star and enough.
No,
I can steal coins. That's fine.
you know, it's been really cool because it would make sense. It would be a reverse video. Which other game can have TV?
Yeah, I would just want it because that means we could get DS games on NSO, because then we'd have dual screens.
You have the option.
I did see that there was that Nintendo filed a patent to be able to flip the Switch 2 upside
Yeah.
down. Did you see that?
You think so?
Yeah, I don't know what they could do with that, but that'd be kind of cool.
So it's like the screen goes upside down.
Yeah, you flip it, and then like you can continue to play the game upside down. Kind of like how like you have a phone and you
Yeah.
can turn it.
I mean, they have done the Switch. They were like some games are horizontal, like horizontal. Like,
Yeah.
you have it like, well, like Wii Party, you has that where you have to play the screen like.
Oh yeah, and
Vertical.
the Clubhouse game
Yeah.
has that too. You're right.
But I guess it's like not feature. You just play. You just turn it.
True. So.
But I guess that's your most logical.
Yeah.
What's your least? What's the feature you want the most? That you probably won't get.
Oh man. Probably GameCube on NSO. Likely.
I think it's more likely to be.
You're right.
I'm not gonna lie. DS games,
Or less likely.
if they don't have a way to do it,
Yeah.
Versus minigame.
Yeah.
or
I'm still waiting on N64, more N64 games. Smash Bros.
my least likely is disc games.
Yeah.
Because it's N64, but disc because
Yeah.
apparently it's console.
Yeah, they have that Mario Paint that
It's
never got
9
released.
games, but most of them are Japanese too. That's
True.
But you like my logic is they released Mother 3 on Japan and that's
Yeah.
so they just released it on the Japan side.
Yeah, but luckily you can just. I have a Japanese account, so I can.
Because I'm saying it's region free.
Yeah.
They don't really say much about it. They don't want you to know.
Exactly.
But technically, what's stopping you from playing those games in Japanese?
Yeah.
If you play Mother 3, you're not gonna play if it's in Japanese.
Yeah.
But They don't know what's stopping.
No.
Or what's stopping from using the Google Translate haptics.
That'd be a lot of work for Mother 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would just hope that they would. Oh god.
I mean, there's like that. I'm currently using the translation is what I'm doing.
Oh, so you just
Minecraft controls.
gotta Minecraft Steve it.
Yeah, but there would stop them. I'm currently on the Wii U at night. Like sometimes I play the Mother 3 translation
2,
Yeah.
1.
because I don't know when.
I remember before Danganronpa came out, people had to use fan translations to play that game.
Did it come out like in Japan only?
It was, yeah, for a long time.
On the.
Oh, what? I can still play. I thought it was the first one. Okay.
I really should replay the first couple games here.
I love it.
I'm done.
Record.
Oh yeah, same here. I know.
Or what I should watch. I should watch it.
Yeah, that's a quick way to do it.
I never watched the games.
Yeah.
And I know there's your thing where like the third one isn't the third one.
Yeah, that's a whole separate thing.
Like I don't get the
It's
flow.
weird,
Like
yeah,
how different are they?
It's just a completely different story.
Yeah.
All different.
So the first two are similar, but the third and fourth.
Yeah, Danganronpa 1 anime is literally the game. It's like how Persona 5 anime is. Then for some reason there's no Danganronpa 2 anime. There's no Danganronpa 2 anime, only the game.
That's weird.
And then there's an anime called Danganronpa 3.
I guess.
But
Yeah.
Danganronpa 3, the anime, is not the same
I
as
get
the game.
why Danganronpa 2 doesn't understand. Yeah.
I just
But
think
it's weird.
I just think that they just didn't have enough money to
Or
make it. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Naito and the anime.
That would be cool if
I
it
mean,
existed.
they should. I don't know anything about the animes.
Bonus
Like,
mini
with like the 3. But I think Naito is in one of those.
Yeah, there's flashbacks.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
there's
thinking-
flashbacks to
So
one and
it's not
two.
like he's not in it at all. That's like.
Yeah,
But like the events of 2 aren't in it.
exactly. Yeah, it's all like flashback. Oh gosh,
Which is that sounds like a.
it is. Very complicated.
Yeah.
This was my favorite minigame in Mario Party 6. That's where this one's from.
I played this. I found.
I love that one. It's like running. Whoa! From a big boulder. The way that Mario and Luigi run is so
I think I played mostly in Jamboree already, but like.
yeah.
But it's really stressful because like. You could fuck someone over through it.
Yeah,
By
but
the time
you
like met
Try.
in front of
Oh, like just now,
Well, like-
almost died.
well, like just thinking someone's gonna jump in front of you
Literally. Oh no! Whoa!
or that pull.
That was insane. I will die. Oh, who
You don't see the wall because of that.
We're the only survivors.
Gotta get ya.
No! Oh! Oh no! Are you kidding me? Are you serious? I'm pissed.
Got rocking.
That's a cool one. How are they alive? They got crushed. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get another star.
Maybe a bonus.
I got two.
Yeah,
Two.
bonus.
That is true. We just don't know which one they are. Does this game do 2 or 3? I think it does 2.
Only
I
2
mean, I could be
turns
wrong.
left.
I know for a fact Mario Party 3 does 3.
I know these two.
Yeah.
Oh, hi Daisy.
Jamboree.
I thought she was big. Hi.
She's like glowing.
Yeah. I just a little pissed.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. That's what, like, I guess because the color of her dress, I like color.
And he's like, get it, let's go. But
It was interesting playing Mario Party 3 on Nintendo 64, and I'll talk about how Daisy used to have a red crown. I thought that looked cooler.
yeah. I mean, it made her look different.
Yeah.
I guess what portrait Mario Party 3? Because I know we were having epic when we do the final.
That Waluigi is the Waluigi Island is the only.
I know we have to finish one of the boards. Yeah.
You're right. I just don't remember which one. We did the snow one.
Yeah.
We did the water one, the desert one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Once we finish this Mario Party 3, what are we gonna do? Just replay 1 again?
We could, yeah.
I mean, I know you were doing 2 for a while, and then.
The funny thing is, we've already streamed 3 more than we streamed 2, which is hard to believe, but I was looking at my playtime. Yeah, because I don't think we're going to be getting Mario Party 4 on NSO anytime
We could
soon.
do. I guess we could. Or I think make it Jamboree.
Yeah, right? That is true.
Or
Because this game is like, there's so much content. look at that. I mean, it's been long enough where I wouldn't mind going back to 1. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm just more or less down to do whatever because
yeah, I'd go back to 1 and 2.
if there's interest, you know, we'll every Saturday, you know.
Yeah, I'm not bored with Mario Party yet. I'm not burnt out, so.
And you know, this I'm down. I'm flexible. So like you know, chat. If we ever do another podcast, like
Yeah, you guys want to do another
or
podcast?
if he ever is around,
A
you know,
game dev podcast?
if you're ever ever around, we can just do this again. Where we do a stream after the main stream
For sure.
or the other way.
Yeah. No, this was good. I was like, when you messaged me, I was like, let's just go big. I was like, let's do it. I got the time. Let's do it. So I'm glad you were down. Cause it was fun. I'm gonna edit the beginning out. I'm gonna edit the part where the mic got unplugged, but then it should be on YouTube tomorrow. I feel like that. I'm not gonna be actually home until tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna link the viewers as the main one, but I'm probably gonna.
Oh yeah, dude. I can give you the footage and you can upload it to your channel too. I do not mind.
I mean, I'm probably going to try and bring in the contact to the VOD.
Yeah.
I might edit it.
Yeah, do whatever you want with the footage. You don't need my permission. If you just need me to send it to you, I can do it on a Google Drive, or you can just use one of those.
I might this for our delivery.
Yeah.
But the main idea is probably gonna either do that or we'll link in the description. Turn or one more turn.
One more after this. Yeah, looks like.
How far are we from the board?
It's like, yeah, going on the train would be bad for you because you passed it. That's the next station over. So you have 3 stars. That's insane. So you got 2 in 1 turn. There's like never happens.
We went above it.
That was your chance, buddy. That was your chance, and you roll a 1 and you land on the unlucky space.
I went the long attack. Max out lodestones.
Mamma mia!
Minigame.
Minigame in the final turn.
That's how we're on red.
I know, right? So we were all equal. Dang quiz. That reminds me of the Mario Party 3 one, the Mario Party IQ, where everybody just hits A before Toad even asks the question.
You can predict them.
You can if you like play enough Mario Party, you can sometimes predict it. What the heck?
Right from the street past Meat Plaza.
I remember when they used to have
Round
street pass
2.
stuff like on a phone app.
Apparently, Zoda Man, or Chain, said hi, and I DM'd him.
Nice. I'm sure I got a bunch of DMs from a bunch of people, but I haven't checked because I was literally driving all day
Yeah.
today. I took one stop at McDonald's.
I don't know what's in there. I don't know my shit.
I don't remember.
So,
So we Rosalina picked it. No, we were on
That's it.
skeleton fish. They look the same.
They look, yeah, I think that's like the
Okay.
No,
So yeah, I haven't. If anybody was asking me about DMs, I haven't gotten to read
yeah,
anything today.
No, apparently that is street pass on the Kino Music app.
Oh.
I can use it every once in a while, but
Yeah, I use it when I go to the gym or go for a walk or something.
I usually just music my phone. Rips or whatever.
They keep adding new games to the app too.
I mean, there's like good things about it because
I think I don't know.
there's like oh my gosh, they collection of all obscure games. They actually localize like the titles and stuff
Yeah.
because it's a Japanese game that was on the DS, not the 3DS one.
I just keep getting sad that there's no Tomodachi Life. I would have so much fun streaming that. Tomodachi Life on Switch, I would have such a
I
fun time
wonder
streaming.
what one would they rather localize the 3DS one or the not like localize but like port. They rather localize the DS game with the Switch again,
Final
or
turn.
would they port the 3DS one?
3DS one, because from what I've heard, it's just got like more content and stuff. It's more.
same game, but like
Yeah.
up for the 3DS.
I'm even still surprised we even got Miitopia.
I mean, we got Miitopia, but the issue is, it's sad because the Mii Maker.
It's so cool.
But Nintendo didn't make that.
I know,
it
it's
was
Grezzo.
Grezzo.
It was
yeah.
Grezzo, yeah.
Which is hilarious.
That's the coolest Mii Maker there's ever been.
Which is probably why Nintendo Switch Sports Group bombs. Nintendo made that.
Yeah.
I think Arms Steps made that actually.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot what what they made after Bombs. But they've made something else since, but I don't remember.
I don't think everybody wanted to Switch.
Oh, you're right.
Did they? I don't know.
No, I think that is what it is. And then
Then, so I looked into some development stuff for Switch Sports. They were originally going to make a Mii at all, or sports Mii. They were wanting to make original characters.
Cool. That wouldn't be even worth, I think.
The issue is the fact you're making it a spirit tester in general, or using anything like Switch Wii Sports.
Yeah.
It would.
Yeah.
Everyone would assume it because everyone got this game with the Wii.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe they didn't want to make it Wii Sports, but whether Nintendo or you did it, you didn't make the most of it.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that the Mario Sports game was trying on Switch.
Can't you play as like a Mii in like
Yeah.
Mario Golf?
The deal is,
People rock on
Mario Golf got on Switch with that, but that was only golf. But no matter what happened, all these games were relied on post-content updates.
Yeah.
That they weren't going to.
Yeah, and then people like get burnt out by the time, and then nobody's there playing it.
It was more or less a reason for them not to give any update at launch.
Yeah.
Charge $60 and then say if we don't give updates, it's not our fault.
Literally. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Rosalina is battling you.
Oh
You
shit.
gotta do in a duel.
55 points.
Yeah, that's a
For all
lot.
my points.
It's the last turn though, so it's fine.
I mean, I
With
wanted
the slap
I
chop.
wanted
dude.
those coins for the start.
Oh, that is true. If you win though, you get it. So
I cared about this. It's literally
this one
what,
is hard.
literally
This
if
one's
you
hard.
probably want me to do it.
Oh, one more she's dead. Wow, she
I mean,
was standing there getting slapped around.
That's why I played that game.
I lost there last time.
Because they always jump. The player
Yeah.
always, the other person always would want.
messes with you. Well, now you got the star unless you roll a 1, which would
No,
suck.
I got a custom deck.
Oh, you do. Oh, that never mind.
I would have gotten their 10 points out. And that's a lot of points you just threw. Now she gotta give you the space too. Well, Rosalina, you got your case. Wait, third place. Well, that too.
Oh,
Man, that'd be funny if you got your own points.
that'd be funny.
Hey, it's good that bad. I could just throw myself and move the block. No, I'll take the star. Music.
Yeah, I think that you
got a star.
probably won this unless I get really lucky with bonus stars.
Yeah.
That's the only way. It's the only way.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you would have won if I had 1 star and 2 in like the points.
yeah. I do have the most coins now. So if it does tie, I got 2 more coins. Actually, no, you're gonna land on space and you'll get more than me.
I mean, I can't eat.
I know, it's like, what the heck's the point?
I kind of just did this for that.
If you want to ride the train, you might as well, right?
I mean, there's like the star on the train, I know, but like. No, no. Yeah, because the star was right there.
Right there, yeah. Oh, man.
No, I'm just. I mean, the deal is that the star was right there by the internet. But now I can do this.
This is fucking goofy ass map.
I'm on.
No, I'm not anywhere near the star, even if I use my self-design block, so I don't care.
Yeah, it says 14, so.
Yeah, there was no way I could have made it anyways.
You can make sure you're second at least.
True.
I don't exactly think Boo and Rosalina's gonna
Final
like.
minigame.
Yeah, they didn't win any mini games doing
I
that.
didn't know they're normal difficulty. I think they're normal.
I think so too.
Yeah, I wonder that.
I don't know if I want to.
This is the one where you're supposed to share like controls. Yeah.
What?
You know, so pretty much one person has one access.
Oh, I
The
see.
deal is it's the
yeah.
usually CPUs aren't bad, but when you're playing with another person, they don't know.
Okay. Good luck, myself.
Good luck, stuff.
This would be this is cool if you're playing with like a actual person you have to communicate.
And online especially.
3,
Oh god.
2, 1,
But
go!
Come on, Boo, I'm believing
why are you
you.
Rosalina, stop it. Rosalina!
Come on, Boo! Boo, what are you doing? Come down!
Like, you think they'd actually be good, but there's like, stop it, like. Rosalina, where are you?
Don't get off the wall! There you go.
Rosalina? I had to literally go over that.
And she screwed you over for sure.
But she's like, she's only moving when you're like,
What, Boo? Oh my god. You go up. How long is this racetrack? It's like-
Finish!
Oh, that was stressful.
not very.
Luckily, Boo kind of like
Winner!
steered it right.
The deal is Rosalina kept stopping.
You
have to literally go over that.
going. I kept looking at your screen. I was like, she's not moving at all. All right.
Gave up.
Let's see the bonus star. That's what it's going to come down to. I think that you still probably won't. So, did a great job.
Looks like we have an audience here. Can you run? I have viewers.
Alright, let's see. Don't make it wait too much. Direct your eyes to the monitor. So you're gonna see yours shoot up because you got 2 in one turn. So it's gonna be like Luigi's just spike up. I got the first one.
Okay.
Yep. That's exactly what I thought. And then whoop right at the end.
I think no one got as far.
And everybody did, yeah.
Good for them.
Alright. First bonus one is.
So,
Oh,
I think that's Rosalina. Or not Boo.
Yeah, I didn't land on any positive.
Oh,
it's bold!
yeah, because they both got one actually.
Oh, well, I got last place, so I didn't do nothing.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe you did this one.
No, you did. No, you
I
definitely
tried,
did.
dude. I tried.
GG's. I got last damn point.
Oh, wait, it's 2 stars.
We should have did a channel points bet.
Maybe I should.
Next time for sure.
Or Mario Party 3, you know.
Oh gosh, Mario Party 3. The bet is if everybody's gonna like walk away
I guess.
without losing their sanity.
Congratulations!
If someone mentions Sam's or like something someone makes comment that makes it a Sunday stream. Like if you say Sam, no, Edwin.
Edwin, that's what it is, yeah.
If anyone says Edwin, you lose the bet.
Yeah.
Will anyone say Edwin?
I would probably vote yes. The odds are very high.
Guys,
that
he was a
it-
mimic. I didn't know the words to put it together. With the lyrics, like...
It was difficult to put the pieces together. That's gonna be burned in my brain for the rest of my life.
I don't know the lyrics.
I can't wait until the game actually comes out and he's nothing like that video.
It's like how to make like lore.
Yeah, they just make up stuff.
Cause like they're saying lore to Five Nights at Freddy's, but it's like I feel like they wasn't planned to build like.
I'm sure when Scott Cawthon started, he didn't think he didn't probably think anybody was even gonna play. I didn't think millions of people were gonna play the
And then
game.
over a movie.
Yeah, and they're working on the second one now. There's gonna be a second one next year.
Apparently, Markiplier was gonna be that first one.
Yeah, but he was working on like his own movie or something.
Oh yeah, the horror one.
Yeah.
It's different.
Hey, if he wants to do his own project, I get it. He can always be in the second one.
Alright, I'm gonna.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna head out before it gets too dark. So I
Alright.
can still have some daylight on my side. Luckily, I don't have to drive all the way home. So.
Yeah. Well, chat. I had a good time.
This was awesome. I hope that you guys liked it. Those of you lurking out there, hopefully you enjoyed your pizza pockets. Thanks for the gifted sub to Rainbow Kappa. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, there you go. And
oh, on God.
on God, it was fun,
On
bro.
God.
But
Yeah, it was nice.
yeah, yes, dude, awesome time.
We'll keep touch about the tournament.
Of course, we're working on some big stuff. We got Mario Party and we got Ultimate Tournament Dreams too.
Dude, that's ridiculous.
Dude, that's so.
No
fun.
one expected this.
And like I said, the podcast isn't going to be on YouTube till tomorrow because
Yeah.
I'm not actually getting home until tomorrow.
This pod's probably not gonna be up on there either tomorrow. So,
Yeah,
I'm probably my plan is probably to listen to
I'm staying with a friend tonight that's a little bit closer, and then I'll be back at my actual house tomorrow. All right, this was cool, and I'm excited to see the podcast and rewatch it.
all right, chat. I'm gonna try ratings. I wonder if
Yeah, raid somebody.
which,
Raid Simple Flip.
I don't think he's live. Yeah, they're the person I wanted to rate.
Do it.
Or Simple Flip doesn't want it.
No, I'm joking around.
Germa?
Germa, yeah, it's Raid Germa.
Nah. I think we're gonna skip the rating.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah, because I don't fly right now. Great Tuesday stream. I don't usually stream on Tuesdays, chat. I stream
Right.
Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday.
Super Mario Tuesday.
When do you stream?
Whenever I feel like it is my new
We stream sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays, but
I try to stream every Sunday.
join his Discord if
yeah.
you're not in his Discord.
There's
Or
a lot of people in there that make me not want to go to my own Discord.
let's buy all the Discord. All right, chat.
Alright, I'll see you guys.
Yeah, have a good one, chat. Bye.
That's so funny.